Thursday, April 11th, 2024, marks the 54th anniversary of the Apollo 13 epic lunar mission that became one of the greatest adventures in space history. 1913, the time the Apollo 13 spacecraft launched from the Kennedy Space Center in 1970. The operation was dubbed a successful failure because it never achieved its prime objective of landing on the moon, and successful due to the astounding feat of teamwork from those who pulled together to save the crew. 56 hours and 330,000 kilometers from Earth, an explosion on board forced the crew to abandon all thoughts of reaching the moon. Despite over 1,000 hours of mission-specific training, the entire team and crew were faced with new and unexpected challenges to urgently repair onboard systems in the module, to keep the crew alive, and make course corrections to get the astronauts back to Earth safely. Apollo 13 is a story of resilience, ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, and one so dear to us. Adapt or die. Apollo 13 is a modern parable of crisis management, leadership, and teamwork. Although it took place 54 years ago, there is still so much we can learn from this event, particularly in recent weeks during the crisis that has engulfed around the world. This historical space mission is a perfect example of remote teams working together in an exemplary way of decisive leadership with a clear vision and, crucially, of creative ingenuity, coping with challenges by innovating and adapting in response to a situation. So many of us have encountered these elements over the past, handling extreme crisis and change, and we are likely to continue facing further challenges in our volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, or known as VUCA. As the Apollo 13 mission has taught us, those with the ability to respond quickly and adapt will be better prepared to navigate uncertainty successfully as it arises. Lesson number 1. Exemplary leadership. Jim Lovell, the commander of Apollo 13 and Mission Control's flight director, Gene Kranz, expertly demonstrated the importance of calm in the midst of chaos after disaster struck the ill-fated mission. Their ability to maintain control in such a critical situation inspired confidence amongst the teams in space and on the ground. In Mission Control, Kranz's clear prioritization and single-minded vision for people to work the problem and get the astronauts back to Earth alive prevented the team from disintegrating and set the new direction soon after the crisis emerged. With the right team formation and clear instruction, Flight Director Kranz was then able to relinquish control and trust in his team of technically proficient experts to work without deviation to find the right solution in a timely way. These enduring lessons demonstrate the power of leading with accountability, clarity, and astute decision-making without preference or bias. In simple terms, set the vision, form your A-team, and trust it. Lesson number 2. Timely communications. Clear, direct, and frequent communication is essential during a crisis. Communication with the Apollo 13 spacecraft was channeled through one team member from Mission Control, known as Capcom, Capsule Communicator. This single line of communication ensured only timely, specific, and clear information was given to the crew. The Capcom was a trained astronaut and could empathize with the crew in space. Messages were therefore relevant, positive, and proactive, and kept the team informed of what they needed to know at the right time. On Earth, Mission Control's team of project managers was vast. Coordinating so many people required constant communication and a culture of openness. Communicating early, frequently, and with relevance is one of the most important elements during a crisis and helps to mitigate fallout from the situation. Today, with so many communication channels available, it is also vital to be consistent and coherent. Think consistency, clarity, compassion. Lesson number 3. Supreme teamwork. I will stand behind every decision you make. We came into the room as a team and will go out as a team. Gene Kranz, Apollo 13 NASA Flight Director. The Apollo 13 mission is one of the best examples in history of teamwork under extreme pressure. The team worked intensely and selflessly around the clock for 87 hours straight on their single objective: to get the crew home. Kranz understood that his team as a whole were greater than the sum of their individual parts and instructed teams to take ownership of their specialist areas, to collaborate, and to act on problem-solving. Empowered, the teams worked tirelessly to devise, test, and implement ideas and solve problem after problem that they encountered, interrogating their recommendations as they went to strive for absolute certainty. Tested to their limits, hundreds of people worked the problem in Mission Control, but their cultural drive and determination meant they simply refused to fail. While conditions were far from ideal in this high-stakes scenario, the Apollo 13 team demonstrated that collaboration, adopting a test-and-learn approach and remaining steadfastly focused on a common goal led to their creative problem-solving and outstanding collective performance. Lesson number 4. Absolute adaptability. The onboard explosion had caused fatal damage to the spacecraft. Systems had to be fixed to reduce rising CO2 levels inside the Apollo 13 craft to make the trip home possible. Limited equipment in the spacecraft called for extreme resourcefulness. NASA was wary of short-term inventiveness and creativity, but when Mission Control was left with no other choice, it approached the task with a cautious yet open mind. Teams improvised. Checklists developed over years were replaced with checklists developed over days. Eventually, a solution was found. The mailbox was created and tested thoroughly before the idea was suggested to the astronauts, who were then clearly briefed on how to recreate it in space with repurposed onboard material. It worked. Commander Jim Lovell later described this improvisation as a fine example of cooperation between ground and space. The scenario demonstrates the importance of being able to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. This ability enhances organizational resilience, ingenuity, and creative innovation to reimagine and reinvent when required. In a crisis, there really are two options: adapt or die. Lesson number 5. Preparing for the unpredictable. The Apollo 13 crew spent over 400 hours in simulators, and flight controllers participated in numerous pre-mission simulations of problems with the spacecraft in flight. NASA's rigorous preparation, rehearsal, testing, and existing procedures proved to be highly adaptable when faced with the new set of issues raised from the Apollo 13 accident. Yet, most often a crisis is unpredictable. In the eye of a new storm, there may be no precedent for specific action required, as was also the case for Apollo 13. Where there was no precise contingency in place, teams, equipped with their pre-mission preparation, applied past learnings to new improvisation techniques, and with the same meticulous obsession and attention to detail they used for everything else. The aim was to reduce risk. This process led to faster, more reliable outcomes. Whilst every eventuality cannot be planned for with exact precision, most crisis situations benefit from a predetermined, planned, and well-rehearsed course of action should an issue arise. Preparation is key. Failure was not an option. 54 years later, we remember Apollo 13's triumph over tragedy. The solutions to save the space mission that came so close to disaster has repeatedly been referred to as NASA's finest hour, and the response to the emergency by the steel-willed team as outstanding. It is a shining example of NASA's innovative minds working together to save lives. A little-known fact: whilst the mission failed to reach the moon, it succeeded in setting a world record for reaching the highest altitude attained by a crewed spacecraft at 400,171 kilometers from Earth. The flight of Apollo 13 provides valuable lessons in leadership, communication, resilience, creative problem-solving, courage, and teamwork when dealing with a crisis. We will be marking this truly inspiring feat, recognizing the impact and need for response in times of crisis and change, the importance of adaptability, the benefits of pulling together to utilize diverse skills, and to wholly embrace innovative thinking. Aspects that I am certain can benefit us all right now.